this is one of those things that this is sheer value, sheer training, nothing for sale tonight. So just put the credit cards away, don't worry. But we're just going to have fun tonight. And it's, first I'll tell you, before I introduce her, I just want to tell you why. What's the purpose? You always want to know the purpose of why you do anything. And the purpose of tonight is I've been to a lot of networking functions, and I've been to a lot of events, training events. We just got back from Eric Worre's GoPro event where there were 5,000 people there from all over the world. Just amazing. It was so awesome. And then I came back to Florida and spoke at a Real Estate Investor Association meeting here in Southwest Florida, here in Bonita Springs. And, so I've been to a lot of different events, and there are some people that I think struggle at these events with making connection, with getting across that they want to help other people, networking. And there's one person that I really look forward to seeing at any event that I go to, and that's the trainer for tonight. And she has this way about her, and I see it, I observe it, in that, if you're connected to her, she just makes you feel good. You just feel good hanging out with her. You laugh, she's hilarious. And I believe that part of that can be taught. And so we talked, I think this was out in San Diego, I want to say, and we talked about it, and I said, I'd love to do a webinar where you just come out and share how to be more like you. How can we be more like you at networking events and training events? And, this isn't her only skill, by the way. She has been hired by top companies around the world. She's been hired by top network marketing leaders to help their team. She's a very sought-after trainer and author, and she's just freaking awesome. And she is my friend, Pam Herrmann. Pam, are you there?
It's Herminator to you.
Herminator. Sometimes I call you Herman, sometimes Herman, sometimes Herminator. Pamela,
sometimes hey you. Hey lady. Yeah. Hey, I pretty much respond to anything, Ray. If you call, if you whistle, I'm there.
Well, I'm excited. We're so appreciative of you being on here. I know that you have a busy schedule with all the different projects you got going on. So I definitely appreciate you hopping out here for the community and helping some people get better at networking, which I think is just such a killer skill. It's a skill that can be developed, and I think you're one of the best in the business to teach it. And so we're excited to hear from you, my dear.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, Ray. Always. We've been talking about doing this for a long time, and so the day is here. So I'm really excited about this. It's funny because when you posted this this link for this event tonight, and you used the word charisma, I had kind of an interesting visceral reaction to that, because I always, first of all, I had to look up the word and see what I meant. Because of course we use this word all the time, right? That person's really charismatic. I tend to think when somebody's described as charismatic, I always think about preachers, like Southern preachers. They're very charismatic, right? And then I looked up the description, and they used an example as Hitler, and I'm like, oh my God. So anyway. No, but it's true. Charisma can be used very positively, and it can be used very negatively. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to kind of explore, what does the word mean, and what are the different elements? How do you create charisma within yourself? Because you're absolutely right, Ray. This is not a skill that you're born with. This is a skill that can be developed. And I'm going to show you guys the process that I went through. It's actually much easier than you think. I'm just going to show you a few things that I did to kind of tweak the way I communicated, and it was all the difference in the world. So, so first of all, what is the definition of charisma? Well,
I did. And by the way, I did pass you the screen, but we're currently not seeing your screen in case you're showing anything.
I'm not showing anything. I'm just at your page. Here, I'll show my screen. Can you guys see it?
No.
Oh.
Hey, there we go.
Look at you. That is awesome. Okay, so charisma, exercising a compelling charm that inspires devotion in others. And I thought, wow, that's really cool that you would use that word to describe me, right? That means a lot to me, because really, ultimately, That's what I try to do. I try to move into a place where I'm exhibiting interest to the degree that somebody feels a reciprocal devotion toward me. This is really kind of heart-centered stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about the head and systems and processes, but really when we're talking about connecting with people, building trust really quickly, and how do we do that in our personal lives and how do we do that professionally, I'm going to show you guys how to do this, and it's super, super simple to do. But I want to share with you a little bit about how I came to this level of awareness within my own business, because I got stuck, just like a lot of people get stuck in their business, and a lot of it had to do with the sales cycle. I want to show you just a quick little graphic here. What was happening for me, can you guys see this slide right here?
Yes.
Perfect customer lifestyle. Life cycle. Okay, so what was happening for my business? Hang on, it's just uploading. I've got the beach ball of death working here, so hang with me. So what was happening for me was that, of course, the people that knew me, my friends and family, they already trust me, right? They know me despite all of my failings, and they still love me. So when I started doing sales in the cold market, I started to observe something quite differently happening with my ability to get somebody to take a specific action. Okay, that's what sales is all about. You really want to move people through a psychological process where they just say, heck yes, let's go. And so what happened, if you're looking at my screen right here, on the absolute left, attract traffic, this is an area. Let me first explain this continuum here. When we're talking about bringing people toward us and using attraction marketing and then leading them through a place where we convert, and we go all the way down the continuum to the point where they refer their friends and families, that is the perfect customer life cycle. And where I was getting stuck was right smack here in the middle with converting sales. And I was converting sales with friends and family, but I was having a heck of a time with the cold market. And the reason why is that I had not established trust with them, and I didn't even understand how critical that was to a sales conversion. And so I started moving into this place of, first of all, I put the brakes on my business, and I moved into a place of fear because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm doing something wrong. I'm not exactly sure what, but my conversions have just fallen apart. And I need to figure out what, because I'm spinning my wheels in the mud. I'm wasting really valuable prospects, practicing on them, and not really being effective at it, not getting the results, and my profitability suffered as a result. And so what happened now, so we're going to go from the heart to the head for a second. We're just going to talk about the process. What was happening for me was that I was talking to people, and I was talking about the things I cared and valued. You know, at the time I was working with a company, it was a science-based product, and I love science. I'm a goofball for anything that has to do with science. And so I was talking about the science because that's what's interesting to me. What I didn't realize was that there is this important element, Ray, you train about this, you know, 24/7, and that is connecting with what other people care and value. And
Right.
so charisma, the result is charisma, but the front end has to be this ability to communicate on a level that transcends your own ego. And what was happening was that my ego was getting in the way in the conversations. I was designing a conversation around what I cared and valued with no clue as to what it is that they cared and valued. So as I started watching and observing some people that were really good with communication, you know, some very, very successful people, and I tend to reverse engineer things. So I look at an outcome and I think, okay, how do they do that? What are they doing differently? Do you do that, Ray? Do you reverse engineer much?
Um, it depends. I guess I would. I'm trying to think of a scenario. I don't know. What's your scenario?
Well, I
And I'll
started
tell you
looking.
if I would have.
Yeah, no, that's a perfectly fair thing to say, is that I don't really know, because a lot of people are not in the space of awareness. Ray, I think I just threw you under the bus with that statement, but
Yeah.
they're not really aware of what it is that they're thinking or doing, to the degree that you can't really change it if you're not aware of it. So when I became aware of what really successful people were doing and really good sales people were doing, then I started thinking to myself, okay, I see that they're asking questions. Here's an example. I see that they're asking questions from me in the process of them presenting, and I was never doing that. I wasn't taught to do that. So they were asking questions based on the things that they already determined that I cared and valued. So you can see how we're kind of taking a step back away from this place. It's not about conversions. Conversions are the outcome. What I wanted to understand is, how do I get people to see the world through my eyes? Well, the way to do that is to get into their head. So when we look at charisma, what I really want to first instill you guys with a notion, and that is that you have to be highly attentive to detail when you're talking to somebody. So, here we are in the height of kind of the social season, right? We've got holidays, we've got New Year's coming up. You guys are doing a lot of socializing. You're with a lot of friends and family. Some of it can be painful, be around people that you have to be around, not that you choose to be around. And there can be conflicts. It's a very high emotion time of year. And so what I want to do is show you guys a way that I design conversations on a personal level. And then I'll show you how I take that same framework and I use it in a business capacity. Personal is just easy because, we're talking to people socially all the time. And I think sometimes where we get sideways with our business is that we get our wires crossed and we start talking about business and social situations when we haven't properly teed it up. Is that making sense so far, Ray?
Well, and I think that a lot of times people enter a realm of compensated promotion for the first time in their life, and they forget that they're a human being. And
Yes.
and so people come into this new world of, wait a minute, now instead of telling my best friend about the yummy meatball sub down the road, now I can tell them about something else I like and be compensated for it. And they forget how they used to tell their friend about the yummy meatball sub, and all of a sudden they're weird. And their friends feel that weirdness. They feel that weird vibe. And it's like, why are they being weird? Oh, they're trying to make money off me. And sometimes that can be difficult.
It can be, and this is exactly what happened with me. I was putting dollar signs on people's foreheads because I was putting them through a filter in my mind that everybody was a prospect for me. And I think that's where we can derail a good relationship, a valuable relationship. To me, and Ray, I know that you have a shared value system around relationships, and then it's all about service first, and any sort of an outcome is going to be the result of that abundancy of service. So what I want to share with you guys, pardon me, are a few verbal and non-verbal skills and just things to be really, really aware of. And I'm going to show you how I kind of design a conversation in a way it's completely authentic to me, and it can be for you too. As a matter of fact, this is a system and a process that I use with even extreme introverts, and they have broken through the things that hold them back from communication, the shyness, the being overly self-aware to the degree that it's painful for them. So this can work with anybody, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Sound cool?
Cool.
Awesome. Okay, so we talked about attention to detail. So this was kind of an interesting situation that happened to me recently. I was talking to a woman. We were networking, and somehow we got on the subject of her family. It's the holidays, and I asked her if she was going to be doing some traveling, and yeah, we started talking about her mom and dad. And I observed her body language as she was talking about her dad. It was kind of like her shoulders kind of collapsed a little bit, and her eyes dropped. And I just stopped the conversation right there, and I said, "Wow, what just happened?" So it was that attention to detail in just a kind of a casual story that most people probably would not have even observed, that all of a sudden she looked up at me and she said, "Wow, did you just see that?" And I said, "Yeah, what just happened there?" And she said, "Oh, I was just thinking," and she told kind of a sad story about her dad and something that she was thinking about. And so it's those little tiny observations. They can be really slight nonverbal cues that the person that you're talking to gives you, and there's an opportunity in that to connect with them. And when you can open the portal into that space with somebody, that's where trust gets built really quickly.
And
So
if I
what this, go
can
ahead,
I
Ray,
hop in here for a second?
please.
See, what Pam just described is so powerful. Like one of the things that we teach our team is something we call a three-step setup. And it starts with step number one is be vulnerable. And see, there in that interaction, in that, verbal transaction, whatever, um, you're not only aware, but also not too chicken to point it out. See, when you forget that we're all humans, that we're all connected, that we're all alike, then it's easy to just let things just brush off. So it's not just that attention to detail to catch it, but also the willingness to kind of be in a vulnerable, connected kind of way and say, hey, what was that? I care enough to ask you about that. That's it's these little things. You don't see these taught in any book I've ever seen, at least, but that's what makes Pam so good, is those kind of little things. So I hope you guys are paying attention.
Well, that's such a great point, Ray, because it takes a lot of confidence and boldness to be able to say to somebody, hey, I just sensed something, like a shift just happened there. Are you open? And I didn't say that to her because are you open is a weird, like, I
Right.
wouldn't say that socially, right? But I was just like, whoa, what just happened there? So I use it language that's very authentic to me and my personality type. But that level of observation, very, very, very few people are attentive in that to that degree. That's the reality
Well,
of the environment that we live in today with technology. And I do this myself. I've got my kids, and when they're with me, I have to work very consciously to be present with them and not be thinking about work, not be thinking about
right.
deadlines, not be thinking about clients, put the technology away, and when they're telling me a story, they've got my full attention. That's almost like it's sort of a standard now because we are bombarded with a chaos of information. So if you want to be unique, if you want to convey charm and charisma to people and you want to stand out, this is the honey hole right here. I'm telling you guys, because nobody feels like they're being heard. You
The
like that word,
honey
honey hole?
hole. The honey hole. Got
It's
it.
the honey hole. Well, I think you can interpret that. Never mind.
Um,
Think,
but
think.
no, what I get out of this conversation is, you said being present, but what's the opposite of that? That is not just going through the motions. How many people are just going through the motions each and every day with every damn conversation they have, and every person is more bored than when they started the conversation, and so it's being present and not just going through the motions, guys. If you want to be great, the greats, they don't just go through the motions. They step it up and they're bold, like Pam's talking about.
Yeah, it's interesting because even though this is a skill that can be learned, it takes a while to master. I'm not going to lie to you. This isn't something that you're going to nail in a week. But what I would encourage you to do is to start being more observant, being more present in the conversations, and thinking about being an active listener. And listening is hearing, that's passive. But being an active listener really requires you to get into the head of the person that you're talking to. And one of the ways that I do that, now that just sounds like a very broad statement and doesn't really mean anything, but one of the ways that I get into the head of the person that I'm talking to is a process that I self-describe it as death of ego. Not death of Vigo, but death of ego. It's really coming from a place of non-judgment. It's putting to rest all of my mommy and daddy issues. It's getting out of my head, letting go of my own patterns and processes and programs and all the things that are part of my hardwiring that make me unique. And when somebody says something to me, I let the words just hang. I'm not thinking about what to say in response. I'm just absorbing what it is they say. Now, an interesting thing happened So when we talk about connections, like really quick connections, and you can do this, you guys, just socially, just at parties. It can happen in a matter of minutes. I was at a Labor Day party, and I didn't know anybody. I just knew the person that invited me to come along. I knew no one at this party. And I thought to myself, and this is when I first started implementing the strategy. Okay, so I wanted to take it out for a test drive, and this is what I did. Went to a party, and I set the intention that I was going to have just a quick little conversation with each of the 25 people that were there. Just, hey, how are you? How do you know, Bob and Sally, and blah, blah, just some basic chit chat, and just get to know them a little bit. That was my objective. So when I walked out of that barbecue, I had met my objective. I had a small conversation with everybody, and what I found was that I was feeling a little pissy about the whole thing. And the reason why is that I walked out of there knowing a little bit about everybody, and nobody asked any questions about me. And as I sat with that feeling, and I think I journaled on this, but I thought to myself, why are you resentful? You met your objective. Now, why are you feeling like you were neglected? Why are you feeling these emotions that you're feeling? And it occurred to me that I was still operating from a space of ego. I hadn't yet let go of that fact that, I met my objective, and I knew a little bit more about people, and I connected some dots for some people. I had some things to do in terms of connecting people that I knew. So that was really cool. But what happened was, because I was feeling such high, intense feeling toward nobody actually reciprocating my questions, that's when the top of my head exploded. And I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is what people want. They want to be listened to. They want to be,
Yes.
Right?
Amen. I agree 100%. And what's neat about what you just described, your scenario, is I'm very willing to bet that all 25 of them feel great about you, even though they don't know anything about you. And I first kind of heard this said by a friend of mine named Bob Berg, who wrote Endless Referrals, and he talks about how the best conversation that people ever have is when the other person just doesn't say anything, right?
Yeah.
And they get that out. And so it's interesting, when you strip away that addiction to the outcome, how I assume you're feeling good about these things, but that's powerful.
Yeah, it is really powerful, because what ends up happening, and it's not unusual for me to hear this, for people to say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just told you that.
Yeah.
That's
powerful.
It's super powerful, because people feel like they can be vulnerable with me and that they can trust me as a result of me just asking some basic questions. And I wasn't poking or prodding or being interrogative about the whole thing. I was being very authentic to who I am and just being very curious about who they were and why. I would ask I'm sort of like an annoying 3-year-old. It's kind of like, well, why do you do that? And or why do you think that is? And really getting people to just explore their statements. Even, it's kind of interesting, because even if you come across somebody who is not very articulate with their feelings, their emotions, or why they do the things that they do, when I sort of challenge them, this is where it kind of comes back to the confidence and being assertive. When I challenge them and say, why do you think that is? Then oftentimes they kind of stop and they think, I don't really know why that is. So then you can start this whole dialogue of, well, maybe it's because, and it's very empowering when you can have that level of connection with somebody where you start exploring a thought. Why are you thinking that way? Why do you do the things that you do? This is the good stuff. And I'll tell you guys, just on a personal note, when I had that aha moment, the top of my head exploded, I put everything back together, put my brains back in, I thought to myself, now I'm going to experiment with my parents, because my parents are in their 80s, and I get a little prickly with them, because they're always, they're doing kind of what the elderly do. They talk about things that annoy them. My parents are still married. They talk about how each other annoys, how one annoys the other. And so I thought, well, let me take this out for a test drive and see if this works with my parents, and it helps me manage my expectations with them in my conversations with them. So that's exactly what I did. And I found what happened is that I moved into this place of empathic listening, where I wasn't trying to fix their problems. I wasn't trying to do anything other than just say, wow, that must feel X, or I can relate, or doing something just to validate their emotions. And so to me, what the result of that entire thing with my parents, it's really enriched that relationship, and they feel a closer connection to me. And I used to resist a lot of the things that they said, and now I just feel like I'm in the flow with them with conversations. And then I started experimenting with my children and using some different techniques to communicate with them so that I could get them to articulate feelings, which is really hard for kids to do. You know, they feel the feelings, but they don't have the words necessarily to describe the feelings. And so this type of connectedness of just sitting quietly when somebody says something and let it fall over you and then responding appropriately, that becomes super powerful for people who, even adults who are not very articulate. So, so one of the things that I do, which is kind of fun, is I go through this process with them to create what I call social equity. Okay, that's what this is all about. I'm just trying to build relationships with people and connect them to a solution. So the social equity, it comes through the process of me asking key questions. So now we're going to kind of shift gears and talk about how I use this in business. What I want to be able to do when I'm out networking, when I'm meeting people for the first time, and I'm sort of putting them through a process to let them self-sort as to whether they're a prospect or not, one of the things that I do is I just start asking some general questions, really designed to kind of figure out, you know, what's going on in their life right now. So this is really simple to do when you're at a, you know, a holiday party. It's just like, so it's kind of like the example that I use with Labor Day. It's sort of like, well, how do you know Bob and Sally? That's a great jumping off point. So I would just kind of figure out, so what kind of work do you do? Oh, you guys work together? Cool. So I take the whole conversation about what's going on in their world today, in the present. And then I segue and I design the conversation just through some very simple questions to understand, well, what, you know, what would they rather be doing instead of the work that they do? Or where would they like to go vacation? So I move it into the future, and we talk a little bit on the level of almost like dream building. A lot of people aren't really dreaming a whole lot. They're not really thinking about,
Amen.
what would it be like? People are kind of in combat mode with their financial lives right now. They're living day to day. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. And so it's kind of cool when you can just in a very friendly sort of way move the conversation into the future and get people to think a little bit more creatively with their life. And that's where it gets really good. So then what I do is I massage the conversation in a way that helps me understand, are they open? Okay, so again, this is business talk. Are you open? That's kind of like sales talk, right? But really what I'm trying to understand is, will they invite me to talk about a solution? Will they invite me to let me connect them with somebody that I might know that can help them with the problem they just told me that they have? Because everybody's going to talk about their problems. That's the easy part of conversation, right? Everybody's going to be sharing with you the thing that's not quite right in their life. So it's all about me. Bob Burg is a great example. You should definitely, it was The Go-Giver was this great book that he wrote, because he talks about this thing of don't think about how you can help people with your direct product or service. Think about how you can connect that person to somebody that you know. And if you're a networker, you know a lot of people. You know a lot of people with solutions. And when you release the conversation from it being about you and how this benefits you and how this might line your pockets with dollars if they transact with you, if you let go of that and think about, who do I know that can help get that thing that you want or remove that challenge, then all of a sudden you can exhale. And all of the stress that I felt in conversations as I was trying to think, okay, when do I transition into, my cool thing, all of that went away. I just chillaxed.
And that's really powerful, because it's one of the, I talked about this I think a couple days ago on my blog, in that I'm just not a huge fan of, here's this exact script to use on every single human, because I think people use scripts to do their connecting and thinking for them. And whereas, if you do what you're talking about, and I think I'd be willing to bet that there's some people on here in their hunt for the quote unquote closing statement missed the value you just delivered as far as listen for a problem, offer a solution. And if you come from that realm and keep and understanding that when you quote unquote offer a solution, it may not even be your solution. You know, there are people that I talk to that are maybe looking for a coach or looking for whatever kind of resource, that I refer them to who I think would benefit them the most, and that may not be me. And you know, and I think as you go up the social economic ladder, you'll find more and more and more and more people like that. It doesn't have to, like you said, line their exact pockets, but they're looking to offer solutions to people with problems.
This is so key, because I think, you know, you and I have very shared worldviews about the universe and what you put out, and this is kind of the whole basis of attraction marketing. If you put it out, then just have faith that you will be rewarded. And if you just move forward through your life, even if you're brand new, move forward through your day-to-day tasks, connecting with people with that mindset that you will be rewarded for connecting people to a solution, then it will happen. It just does. It organically happens. It'll manifest itself. It's the craziest thing in the whole world.
Yeah.
The whole key is that so let's get back to the main thing. You have got to differentiate yourself. And businesses, even big businesses today, are using this strategy. Not a lot of them, but many of them are differentiating themselves in the online space by using the strategy. So now that we've kind of transitioned from the personal to the business, let's talk a little bit about how you can use this online. And I love Facebook. You know, Jessica just released this great Facebook training, and there are some very easy ways for you guys to practice this, especially if this creates great discomfort for you. My recommendation is go into Facebook, and here's how you start to practice. Can you guys see my screen now? We're looking at
Yes.
Ray. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch. I'm a little bit behind here, but I've got a bunch of friend requests here. So let me show you how it is that I kind of take this whole structure of just connecting with people and being normal, socially normal with people in Facebook. Okay. One of the things that I like.
You just copy and paste a script or a generic video, right?
Pretty much, because it's all about time. Time and money. You know what? It's so funny because we laugh about this, but I am all about the slow train. I want to take the slow train that's going to get me to a place of loyalty with somebody.
Yep.
With the objective that I'm going to connect here, and that we are going to develop a relationship. And I'll show you a few things that I do. Okay. So here we've got. I want to just see some of our mutual friends here so I can see if there's a connection. What I do is I go in and I take a look at this gal, Elodia's page, and she lives in Chicago. She's self-employed. I don't know exactly what it is that she does. I'm going to go ahead and confirm the request, and then I just send her a personal message. This is just what I do. Okay. This would be the exact same thing as me being at a cocktail party. The same exact thing.
Don't be too mean to her. Don't be too mean to her, because she is on this webinar.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the friend request.
This girl is totally out of it.
You totally rock, says Ray. No, okay. So what I would do here is, and this is a very common strategy that's taught. Jessica teaches this as well. We look for things to observe. Okay, so we're moving into the attention to detail part of it. Okay, so we go forward and we say, well, what is it about her? If she's got pictures of her family, I make an observation about that. Okay, let's go ahead and close out this. Blake, okay, let's go ahead and confirm this, move over to his page. Same thing, I'm starting the initial conversation. So he lives in Columbus, he's self-employed, he's on a rafting trip, that looks like a blast. Okay, so I just confirmed his friendship. If there's a place for me to post publicly, this is what I do. I prefer to post publicly on his wall. If not, I'm just going to send him a private message. And again, I'm just starting the basic of the conversation. Hey, Blake, thanks so much for reaching out to me. Is Blake on the call?
Yes, he is.
Awesome, Blake. How do you know Ray? Okay. He's going to know it's you, right? How do you know Ray? So what I'm looking for is some level of connection with him. This is, again, exactly what I would do if we were standing belly to belly. I want to start a conversation. I always engage people with a question. I want to understand, how are we connected? What's the story with his family? What kind of work does he do? Who does he work with? How can I best support him? That's a question that I put out there all the time. What can I do to help you with your business? And I used that strategy even when I didn't know how to help people. You know, I wasn't training and coaching at that point in time, but I always wanted to offer, you know, what can I do to best support your work? You know, who can I connect you with? I'm networking all the time. So, so that's just a basic idea of how I do that within Facebook. And you guys would not believe how effective this is. I go into groups, or I use graph search, and I find, you know, friends of my friends who like Ray Higdon. Okay, you could do this with anything. Who like Oprah, who like Entrepreneur Magazine, who like a particular restaurant, doesn't matter. I mean, I can go in here and send messages, private messages. I don't add friends until I establish a connection with them first, so I send private messages to them. So this is how you can take this whole connection, this charisma, the charm, into the online space. Just start building relationships.
Just curious, what kind of message would you send to Rick? Like if you were going about this, I'm just curious.
Sure.
What would you send him?
First thing I would do is I would say, hey, Rick, I see that you and I are connected through Ray Higdon. He's the boss, isn't he? No, it's the truth. It's the truth. I speak truth here. So I'm not blowing smoke. You're the boss. You're awesome at what you do. You're a leader. You're a massive content creator, an incredible influencer, and anybody who is on this call knows that. So I'm just speaking the truth.
Thank you. Awesome.
He and Jess are great friends. Now I'm going to go into a question. Because I don't think I can move this box. So what I should have looked at is who's he working with, if it says on his page. So what I'm going to say is, I'd love to learn more about.
It kind of sounds like me and Jess are great friends. We are great friends. You mean of yours?
You're friends, you're married. Well, you're married. Can you really be friends? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'd love to learn what that you do. And how I might be able to connect you with like-minded people. So that's pretty much it. Warm regards, Pam. I do about 20 of these a day. It's highly, highly effective. And so if you're shy, if you're more introverted and making connections socially, belly to belly is uncomfortable for you, then get your feet wet on Facebook. It's a great way to use a lot of the strategies that we're talking about here. So making sense so far, Ray?
Yeah, and I know if if some people aren't connected, that might go to his other folder or whatever. And
yeah,
yes, this isn't necessarily a Facebook, webinar necessarily. Jess talks all about that in her course thing, but it's the, instead of just the how exactly is she doing, it's the what is the energy that she's putting out there that I hope people are getting.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense, or is there a better way to say that, Pam?
Yeah, no, what the whole key point is for you to be practicing having conversations that are based on the person that you're interacting with. That's the whole intention behind this. Right. So if you're comfortable socially, then as you go forward and, over the next couple of weeks and you're going to parties and you're interacting, then just start connecting on that level with people. This is just a great way for you to sort of practice and get your
and Pam is sharing with you some examples of how she operates. We can't have a live feed and send Pam into a Christmas party. That'd be really cool. But she's kind of sharing how she operates online and offline, of that service attitude, that giver attitude. Who can I connect you with? How can I help you? How can I be of service? What's in it for you? And that's what people want to hear. That's why people are so receptive to Pam.
Yeah, well, let's go. So let's go back to that. Let's go back to the belly to belly interaction. So I was at an event in May, and I I happened to meet a really fascinating guy. His name is Blair Dunkley, and Blair is a professional profiler. And within a few minutes, he can ascertain how successful you are, what, where you struggle. He can kind of go through the whole business process. He works with a very, very high level, like Mike Dillard. He works with him. He works with Tim Irway. So he works with some high level, very, very successful people. And so we sat down and we chit chatted. What started as the intention of just being a few minute long conversation and introduction, we sat and talked for about an hour and a half. And he said something really interesting to me. He goes, he kind of went through and he said, here's how I view you, Pam. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. I said, my unique gift is that I can build trust with people really quickly. I would say probably in 10 to 15 minutes. And he says, wrong. And I was like, what? Like, no, I can't build trust with people. And he goes, you literally do it in about a minute and a half to 2 minutes. Really? I said. What? Okay, wait. So share with me what it is that you're observing that tells you I can build trust people with that quickly. He says there's 3 things that you do that are really, really unique to you. And I'm so glad he pointed this out because I wasn't aware of it. It's all nonverbal. And I want to share it with you guys because this will help you. This is like the icing on the cake. So it's not just about the verbal, it's what your body is doing. And he said, you have great eye contact. I feel like I'm the only person in the room right now, even though we're surrounded by 100 people in this lobby. I feel like you are right here with me and that I'm very special to you because you're giving me your full attention despite all the distractions around me. So eye contact was critical.
Are you guys taking notes? I hope she's
That's
doing
money.
value here. I hope you're taking notes, guys. When you're meeting with somebody, are they the only person in the room, or are you looking for the next target?
Yeah, and let me give you an example of that, and then I'll share the other 2 tips with you. There's this one gal, and I've known her for like 20 years. This craziest thing. Anytime I bump into her, which is not very often, I feel like she doesn't really care to be talking to me. And there's this one thing that since I've learned all of this, there's one thing that she does that has validated this feeling for me. It's a physical thing she's doing. I've always had the feeling that she didn't really care to be standing there talking to me. And I finally figured out what it is based on what it was that Blair shared with me. And the thing is that she's always looking over my shoulder. Like she'll occasionally, her eyes will bounce back and meet mine, and then she'll look back over my shoulder. And what it was saying to me was that I wasn't important enough. And it's weird because I could never articulate.
What's important to understand, she never verbally said, Pam, you're just not important enough. It is that body language that carried that message to you.
That's exactly right. And I felt it at a heart level, but I couldn't articulate it. I didn't even know exactly what was happening.
That's not in the script, guys. It's not in the script to, you need to understand that. So it's not always how to do it. It's how you do the how to. And a lot of times people are coming in and, I give different, suggestions for opener lines. Are you open to a side project? Doesn't interfere with what you're currently doing or whatever. But you can take the most masterful of scripts and look over someone's shoulder and not maintain eye contact. And even the most masterful script doesn't matter if you're losing that presence, that vulnerability, that listening, that making them important. So I hope you guys are paying attention to this, guys. You get these things down, which aren't taught in very many places, then everything else becomes more effective.
Yeah, that was money right there. That was huge money. It was interesting because when I'm talking, so I want to just share a little bit more about eye contact because typically when I'm speaking, my eyes go up because that's pretty typical. I'm thinking, I'm framing my words, I'm in that part of my brain where I'm trying to pull a thought into a verbal thing, right? And so my eyes do break contact when I'm speaking. I actually find it unnerving when somebody doesn't break eye contact in a natural sort of way. So for me, to look away while I'm speaking is completely appropriate. And that's part of the way the brain works, so it's okay. When somebody's speaking, your eyes should be on theirs. Now, there's a second thing that, that Blair observed of me, and he said, you have this well-timed nod of the head. And I said, really? He goes, yes, you just did it. So the nod of the head is really important because a lot of people, what they'll do, so there's so much power in the nod of the head. What happens is a lot of people, their head will just bob. Can you picture it? Just bobbing up and down. You can picture it, right? So you're talking, their head is going up and down. And what that says to me in a nonverbal sort of way is they're not really hearing me. They're acknowledging every single word with a bob of the head. But what's more important and what's more powerful and what's more effective is to not bob your head, but do a well-timed head nod, very slow, maintain eye contact after the period of what they said. When they get done, you nod your head like you're processing. That's what that nonverbal says to them. You're absorbing what they said, you're processing it in your head, you're nodding your head like, huh. And that's when my eyes kind of squint a little bit. And sometimes I will do that. I'll be like, huh, I'd never even really thought about that before. Or, wow, what an amazing thought. Or I acknowledge it in some way that is massively valuable to them. This is the social equity that I'm talking about. This is like your currency. So you're giving them a nugget. You're giving them something of huge value to them, which is acknowledgement of their thought.
And I want to throw this out there because I'm willing to bet very few people are even thinking in this dimension. I would assume they're astral projecting themselves into the seat of a networking event, and there's someone else, next to them or whatever. What about everyone else in your life? People ask me all the time, like all the time, how the hell do you and Jessica, number one, they ask, is it real? Do you guys really have this good of a relationship? And the answer is yes. And then they say, how? How do you have this good of a relationship? Because, guys, these things that Pam is sharing of making the other person feel important and showing that you're actively listening to people, it's not just for your prospects. It's for the other relationships in your life. It's for your kids, just like Pam started the whole thing out with. It's for your spouse. It's for your boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. You fill in the blank. This isn't just for, when you're licking your chops to get that next sale. This is for all the other human beings who are in the same boat you are. What if today you started making every person you talk to, the next, whoever that is at the time, you're present with them, you pay attention to them, you nod your head. Maybe we'll develop an app that kind of buzzes you when to nod your head so you can get it perfectly. I'm just kidding. But what would your world look like if you didn't become a master of, of sales scripts or something like that, but you just made people feel good? Don't you think you'd get more results out of life? Wouldn't that be an interesting experiment to go through?
It's awesome. It really does work. It's crazy. Like I said, this is simple and it takes a little bit of practice, but just be self-aware. And really just, what I've had to train my brain to do is to slow down and not be formulating thoughts as someone is speaking. That took very conscious level, I was thinking about my thoughts basically. And I've since trained myself to not think, just to really hear and to listen and to watch the cues, the body language cues, and to really validate somebody and their thought. This is what we all want. It's super simple. So the last little nonverbal cue here, which is the physical, is that song by Shakira, "Hips Don't Lie"? Okay. So when you're standing there and you're having a conversation with somebody at a party or wherever, the direction of their belly button or their hips is where their attention is being focused. So when you're having a conversation with somebody and you're pointing your hips or your belly button out, It's saying to that person that you are not focusing on them. So think about the direction of where your belly button is and make sure that it's focused exactly toward the person that you're having the conversation with. It's
Interesting.
high engagement. Now, if
Not
you
on the same height. I mean, you're not. You don't.
that would be awkward.
That's just weird. That's just weird, Pam. I've never heard that. Make sure your belly button is pointed at the person. That's what you're saying.
I'm visualizing.
Okay, don't go there. Come on,
Never
Pam.
mind.
This is PG.
Okay, forget about the belly button. Let's just talk about the hips.
Oh my.
These are the kinds of conversations that.
We do not need a diagram.
I'm not going to draw a picture. Think about when you want to break a conversation. So conversely, when you want to engage with somebody, you want to stay, just have your body facing toward them. But conversely, when you're ready to break, kind of turn your hips out a little bit toward the rest of the room, the group, and that'll be a nonverbal indication that you're kind of ready to move on. And this happens a lot in networking. I get sucked into doing this. I'll spend 45 minutes with one person at a networking event, which is not the intention of networking. You want to try and connect with as many people as possible, and have some sort of a significant conversation in the process. But this is a great way for you at a networking event. Just kind of turn your hips out a little bit, and find a nice little way to kind of tidy up the conversation that you're going to connect when you get back home or whatever, and then move to that next person. But use the hips as a way to kind of break the conversation.
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff.
You're going to be watching people's hips now, right?
Wait a minute. Your hips are indicating that you would like to go somewhere else.
Too funny.
Well, good stuff. Well, that's awesome. So can we let's see if we can wrap it up in a nice bowl. What are the okay? So you said maintain eye contact except when speaking. That's weird. Listen. Nod the head, not constantly, not up and down. Don't look over the shoulder. Belly button, do the point. Right? Get ready, then point away. Right.
You kill me.
And think about how you can be of service to somebody. And here's what's neat. I read Bob Berg's Endless Referrals and I think one other book by him right when I was starting my real estate career, and I really took that to heart. I really looked for who can I connect with who, whether I get compensated or not, and I made so many different connections that all of a sudden people started getting me connected to people. And I'm positive you've had that experience as well, I would assume.
Oh, nonstop.
Nonstop, right? It's like
Nonstop.
because if you are a value connector, a value networker, you do it, and there starts to create a residual effect of reciprocity where people want to hook you up too and say, you know what, Pam introduced me to this person, and that person made a difference in my life or in my business. You know what? I want to hook up Pam. I want to take care of Pam and have her blah, 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 fill in the blank. And so, I think if you guys get the, not necessarily the logistics of at what minute marker does she nod her head, but the gist of what energy, who is she being in that either online or offline verbal transaction and communication, I think that you can be better. I think that you can be more valuable, that you can add more value. You can feel better too. Because at the end of the day, if you've just gone and you've pitch, you kind of want to go home, take a shower, say, ugh, right? But if you've had some good quality conversations and been someone of value, I think at the end of the day, you feel a little bit better. Would you agree with that, Pam? Or?
Well, yeah, because this is a known fact. We transact 80% on emotions.
Right.
So if you have an emotional connection with somebody, it's much easier for you to move them into a place. They've already exposed themselves. They've shared with you the things that they care and value. Now what you can do is just connect dots for them and help them get the thing that they need. And it's much easier sales process. You're not going to get stuck at those conversions like I did, because you're now going to be armed with information that helps just bring a solution to their problem. So as we just have the last 2 minutes left before we say goodbye, there are 6 things. So let's kind of recap. Critically important. Number 1, attention to detail when you're talking to somebody. Attention to detail. Number 2, be interested. Not interesting, be interested.
That's a big one.
Show emotions.
Not interesting.
Exactly. This isn't about you. This is about them. Show emotions. Show empathy to what it is that they're saying. Show a level of optimism. This is what all charismatic people do. They have confidence. They have high confidence. And even if you don't have high confidence, you have to develop the skill to project confidence. Until you have actually achieved confidence, you have to project confidence. And then what you want to be able to do in order to gain trust and unite them to a solution is you have to be assertive and be very, very strong in your belief of how it is that you can help them. So that's it. Those are the 6 key points.
Awesome. Well, very cool. I appreciate you coming out here for this quick. I mean, we could do, and by the way, if Pam and I had talked about this, and if you have interest in more of this kind of training, let me know. Go on the facebook.com/Ray Higdon page, drop me a line. If you want more in-depth of this kind of, human communication training, rapport building, that sort of thing, let me know. It's kind of a little bit different training than what we normally roll out. I think it's extremely critical because I think it's easier for people to focus on what are the sales words I should be using or what's the script that I can just read. But if they get better at human connectivity, human connectiveness, and maybe that involves being more vulnerable, having empathy and being human, right? Then I think everything else gets better. I think you connect better. I think you will make more sales. You will build a bigger business, and so on and so forth. So if you're interested, number 1, if you're grateful for Pam, either drop her a line or drop it on the page. We'd love to hear that. And if you want more of this type of training, let us know. And we did have, hopefully, I think we have Thomas on here who recorded this, so this recording will be available. And thank you so much, Pam. You are so awesome.
Well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate the opportunity. I wish you guys a very, very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and let's just go crush 2014. What do you say?
Absolutely.
Awesome,
Absolutely,
guys.
crush it, and we will see you all in the next training webinar. Some of you, I was supposed to tell you this in the beginning, and I'm going to get yelled at probably, but some of you have asked because you missed the crazy launch that we did for Jessica's Facebook product. We are actually going to open that back up sometime this week. I don't know when, but for a couple days we're going to open it back up for sale. So if you either didn't get it and wanted to, you'll be able to just pay attention to the email list. Or B, if you got it and you have teammates that wanted to get it or you think should have it, you'll be able to tell them about it. So that'll be later this week. It might be Wednesday, it might be Thursday. I have no idea. There's other more detail-oriented people that help me out with this stuff. But sometime this week it'll be around there. And we'll have this recording up probably in the next day or so if you want to review it. And we appreciate you. So thank you so much, Pam. Thanks everyone for being on here. And like Pam said, hey, we got to put together the plan now to make 2014 our best year ever. So I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you soon.